Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're talking about Everton. That's right, the Stay or Go series is back on your screens. I usually do it when a manager takes over a team or there is some sort of major development at a side. And what more of a major development than big Sean Dyche back in the Prem? Of course, they've already played one game, beating Arsenal. Dyche ball is alive and well, by the way. But today, I thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to have a look at who in the squad Sean Dyche should think about keeping, selling, loaning, and allowing to leave on a contract exit. To be honest with you, I've done about 8 of these videos by now. If you haven't watched some of them, go and watch them. Let's get on with it. Spooky, are they going to stay up this season, Everton, do you think?
Please let go of me, you ginger twat.
I can see it, mate. I can see it too. Let's start with the goalkeepers then. Jordan Pickford on our screens. Now, he's actually only got a contract till 2024, and that would worry me if I was an Everton fan, because this coming summer is really the only summer they're going to be able to get any fee for him, a notable fee. He is still a post-shot expected goals positive goalkeeper. Quite frankly, he kept Everton in the division last year, if we're being honest with ourselves. So look, I think it's imperative they keep him. Do I think they're going to be able to keep him is a different question. Unlikely. I think they will probably lose Pickford this summer. I think he will take the step up. But in a dream world, I think Dyche would obviously like to keep one of the league's better shot stoppers at the club. The next 2 goalkeepers are out of contract this summer. Asmir Begovic, 35. He is just a backup, but it's probably going to be a contract exit in my suggestions. And Andy Lonergan, 39 now. Didn't realise he was still in the Premier League, but he is Everton's 3rd choice goalkeeper, bumping up that homegrown quota. But he's also out of contract in the summer. I think it might be time for some new blood in the goalkeeping position. Let's move into the back line then, and one of the most obvious keeps in the squad for me is James Tarkowski, who has of course worked heavily with Sean Dyche in the past to massive success at Burnley. I mean, pre-World Cup, there was a lot of chat about James Tarkowski getting on the plane with the England squad. He had a really good first half of the season. You might remember when Everton went through that run of games where I think they conceded like 7 in 8 or something like that, even though expected goals had it an awful lot higher than that. James Tarkowski was playing very well, and we all know what James Tarkowski does well. In here, chucking heads in front of balls, whacking balls into row Z. Slightly underrated in terms of his distribution from the back as well, but he is a physical specimen, he's a leader, and he's the type of bloke Sean Dyche absolutely loves. So he's an obvious keep, isn't he? Next up, we've got Yerry Mina. Now, he's out of contract in the summer, and for me, this is a bit of a difficult one, because when he's fit, I actually think he's quite a good defender. The issue is, he's never fit. He's had 12 separate injuries since joining Everton. He's had the ankle problem this year. It was the hamstring last season. Just nowhere near good enough. I think 3 appearances he's made, hasn't he? And that is a massive problem. It doesn't matter how highly talented you are. If you can't play, it's pointless. The best ability is availability, and Yerry Mina ain't got that. And he's also the 2nd highest earner at the club. So for those reasons, I think it simply has to be a contract exit. You know, his age, the injuries, his wage, despite the fact he's a good player, they don't cut the mustard. We've got Ben Godfrey up next, who's another interesting one. I think I would probably have Ben Godfrey in my keep column. Obviously, he had suffered that bad injury against Chelsea at the start of the season, but he's never really progressed to the levels I think people thought Godfrey would get to. This is his 4th season now of Premier League football, let's not forget. 30 appearances he had in his debut season for Norwich when he was so highly rated. 31 in 2020-2021 with Everton when they finished 10th. And now injury problems, lack of form, changing positions into that right-back role at times, haven't been good enough. But I do think that Dyche will like his ability to play at the right-back slot, to play at centre-back. He is an absolute battler, a warrior. He's not the nicest player to play against. He's the sort of player who's going to leave some studs down the back of your ankle, that's for sure. So I would keep Ben Godfrey as part of my newly planned 4-man central defensive unit. I'll come on to the other 2 as we get along with it. The 3rd of the 4-man unit, of course, is Connor Cody, who is only on loan from Wolves, but has a £4.5 million option to buy, which is incredibly cheap, in my opinion, given that he is still only 29. You know, we're not talking about a 33, 34-year-old here. I think he's got plenty to offer this Everton backline, mainly in the way of leadership. I think Dyche will lean on him heavily to bring that dressing room together. Him and James Tarkowski are likely to be the main guys in Sean Dyche's dressing room. His generals out on the pitch. He's an absolute imperative keep. Next up, we've got Mason Holgate. Now, I put this tweet out earlier in the week talking to Everton fans, and nearly everybody said sell Mason Holgate. So I'm going to listen to the crowd just not been consistent enough, nowhere near enough minutes on the field. He is under contract until 2025 as well, so you might be able to get some fee from him from a championship club, but it's probably time to move on. We've also got Michael Keane in here. Now, Michael Keane's under contract as well till 2025. I'm going to put him in sell for now. I am aware that he's played a predominant role in Sean Dyche's sides of the past. You know, when he was at Burnley, I think it was 44 appearances in the Championship, 35 in the Premier League under him before moving to Everton. He's been at Everton for like 6 years, by the way. But I just think there are 4 better central defensive options than Michael Keane in this squad. I know that Keane's got the past with Dyche, and I think there's every chance he battles his way back into the lineup, and if that happens, then obviously you move him into keep. But as things stand right now, I would sell him. Moving into the fullbacks now, we've got Mykolenko, who is actually, you know, under contract till 2026, and he's obviously going to be a keep because left-back options are thin on the ground. But I think he needs to improve, and I think Sean Dyche will improve him. Doesn't offer anything going forward, really. I think on the ball, you know, we can watch him every week, and we know he's quite weak on the ball. He is a bit of a sort of Sean Dyche style defender though, where he will fling himself in front of everything, battle for the cause, and I think Sean Dyche in the short term is going to really enjoy him in that left back slot. I think going forward, as Everton improve, he is probably an upgradable area though, but they've got much bigger fish to fry right now. So for now, I'm keeping Mykolenko, but in the future, I think they could give him a little bit of competition in there, somebody to battle against, because this guy just hasn't worked out. You know, Vinagre, on loan from Sporting. It's not happening. He hasn't started a Premier League game yet. I don't think he's going to under Sean Dyche unless there's some drastic problem. Nearly got recalled in January to Sporting, didn't he? It's not worked. Patterson's up next till 2027. He's contracted. He's a definite keep for me. I know he had that ankle surgery at the start of the season, that tackle. I think it was with Dele Alli actually in training. Typical. But he's going to come back soon. I think he will be the starting right back in this system under Sean Dyche. Very, very highly rated and absolutely fine. That brings us on to Seamus Coleman, of course, the club captain, who's 35 now and out of contract in the summer. It wouldn't be a massive surprise to me to see Seamus Coleman retire at the end of this season. I'm not entirely convinced he's any longer good enough to start for Everton, but he's got that club legend status that's kind of dragging him along at the moment. So I'm going to say contract exit and that he retires. I think that's probably what happens, and then Everton look to sign another right back to compete with Nathan Patterson. It might end up being that he signs a contract extension under Dyche, but I think he is very much at best the backup now. His underlying numbers, you know, are weak. They are weak, and it's an upgradable area for Everton. I just feel like it's probably one too many seasons right now for Seamus Coleman. The fourth man, and I nearly missed him earlier, in my centre defensive unit is going to be Branthwaite, who, you know, is having a really good season on loan at PSV. You know, Van Nistelrooy absolutely loves him. I think he's made 9 starts in the Eredivisie. He's being heavily linked with some big names across Europe, the likes of Roma, the likes of, weirdly, Liverpool, which I can't see happening. And he has a certain set of skills that are hard to find on the market. You know, he's 6'5", he's left-footed, a left-sided centre-back. That combination is not easy to find from a young central defender, and it's one that I think Everton must capitalise on. They need Branthwaite to take significant strides next season. Now, whether that is another loan or more first-team minutes, I think Sean Dyche will have to analyse over the summer, but clearly they've got a very talented player on their hands, and definitely one that should be kept long term. Whilst we're talking of long term keeps, let's get Everton's new god in there, Onana. This guy is a serious player, so good technically. On the ball, his feet are really good, super intelligent, obviously, an amazing ball carrier from deep, battler, tough tackler. He's everything Everton fans want from a midfielder, Onana, and I can't see them actually being able to keep him hold of him for that long. I think he's got a ceiling above Everton. No offence, Toffees, but for now, I mean, he's a definite keep. Another definite keep for me is James Garner. Obviously, he's been suffering with that back injury. Hasn't played since the World Cup. Hasn't played, I think, since the end of November, actually, which is not great for James Garner, but there's definitely a talented player in there. We saw it at Nottingham Forest. Manchester United fans have seen it as well at times. I think that he can have a big impact across the second half of the season, particularly if Sean Dyche perseveres with the 4-5-1. As can this guy, Doucouré. Now, I'm really torn on this because he's out of contract in 2023 and he's the highest earner at the club. And I want you to remember that because I am going to put him in sell. His impact under Frank Lampard over the last 18 months was really poor. It was really poor. He can definitely have an impact under Sean Dyche, as we saw on Saturday against Arsenal, where I think him, Onana and Dwight McNeil covered more ground than any Everton player has this season. So he is going to have an impact if they play the 4-5-1. But with such big wages, with such little impact over the last 18 months, as we stand today, I'm going to say contract exit. I don't know why I put him in sell there. Should be in contract exit. He's out of contract in the summer, and I think they look to move on. But if he has a big impact under Dyche, which is more than possible, it would be worth, in my opinion, offering him another year. Let's just see how the next 6 months plays out. It's too early to judge Doucouré at this stage. Tom Davies is up next. Another player out of contract. 2 starts last season. I think he's had 4 starts this season. 1 assist in the last 18 months. Just nowhere near good enough. It's another contract exit. And what you're starting to see here is a problem for Everton. The number of players that are out of contract this summer that you probably don't want to renew builds really quickly. When I was analysing this squad, I couldn't believe the number of players that are out of contract in either 23 or 24. And that leaves sellable assets at almost zero. There's very little in the way of incoming money. So the only way they are going to make money is to sell key players, i.e. Jordan Pickford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Amadou Onana. And that is a massive issue because you're then selling your best players. They sold Richarlison in the summer, weren't able to reinvest it well. They've sold Anthony Gordon in January, weren't able to reinvest that well. Do I trust the board to reinvest the sale of a Jordan Pickford, a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Amadou Onana well? I don't. Idrissa Gueye is up next. He's under contract till 2024, so another one I would be keeping for now because you can see the defensive capabilities that he possesses, cleaning up and mopping up in front of that back four, and it's something that Sean Dyche is going to rely on across the course of the season. But he is 33 now. He'll only have 12 months left on his contract at the end of the season, so it's going to be another player you're thinking about potentially having to replace, especially as he relies quite heavily on his legs to cover ground in defensive scenarios. I can see that waning slightly towards the back end of his career. So for now, it's a keep, but it's another contractual problem for me. Iwobi, another player out of contract in 2024. An obvious keep, though. I think he's probably been, for me, Everton's best player this season. 5 assists and a goal. I know Demarai Gray has outscored him, but I think Iwobi has been their best player, or at least in the first half of the season. I'm interested to see where Dyche plays him across the second half of the season. I'm guessing it's going to be in a similar role to we saw at Arsenal. I think it probably will suit his game. It will suit his game because he's still only 26. And he's a player I would be thinking about trying to renew at the earliest opportunity, really, if I was Everton. The next 3, I mean, Dele Alli, sell. Andre Gomez, sell. Mbamin, sell. The recruitment, man. I mean, we've known it for an awful long time that it's an absolute mess upstairs, isn't it? And I really feel sorry for Everton fans. But these 3 really paint a picture for me. You know, recruited under multiple coaches, been at every stage pretty much, other than, you know, Andre Gomez, who had a few good moments, pretty disastrous signings. They've got to be sold in the summer. Just, it's painful. Now we move into the forwards, which, as you can see, there's only 6 left, is an unbelievably thin amount of players. You know, Demarai Gray, obviously going to be kept. The club's top scorer this season, cost €2 million when they've signed him, so a really good purchase, one of the few good purchases for that price. Dwight McNeil, under contract till 2027, and a Sean Dyche favourite. We know he's going to start nearly every game under Sean Dyche, as he did at Burnley. He's a ground eater, but not huge contributions. It was 7 goal involvements in 70 games for Burnley under Sean Dyche. So, not huge contributions. Okay contributions, but again, not huge. And Josh Townsend has you know, snapped his ACL, hasn't he? He's out of contract in the summer. I don't see them renewing that. So you've got 2 wingers on the books. I mean, 3 if you count Iwobi, who can play wide. But 3 wingers in the squad. And the striking options aren't much better either. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to have to be a keep, but has had consistent injury problems for the last few years. Cannot put together a consistent run of game time, despite how talented he was, and still is. And his XG, non-penalty XG, is just tumbling year on year because of those injuries. I mean, you look at these sort of seasons where he's really started to break through, 1920 and 2021, when he put up 16 goals and 13 goals. His XG numbers, 0.52, 0.5, really strong per 90 numbers there. Last season, 0.45. This season, 0.35. The tumbling is concerning. And it's majority down to the fact he cannot put together a consistent run of games. So I really hope he can get his fitness back and he can start to put together a consistent run of games. Because if he does, I think he suits the Sean Dyche system really well. Direct, runs the channel, thrives off of balls into the box and crosses, which Sean Dyche classically does. For me, he's almost ideal in there. But again, a contractual issue because it's up in 2024. So the last time you can get any money for him is this coming summer. So Everton are going to have to make a really tough decision whether they cash in on him or they decide to keep him in the hope he renews, which I think is quite unlikely. Next, you've got Neal Maupay, who joined in the summer, of course, and hasn't lit the world alight at Everton. But if you were to put him in the sell category, you've only got Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a senior striker. Because Ellis Sims is here. Obviously, 7 goals in 14 games at Sunderland. And he had that really strong spell on loan at Blackpool as well, didn't he? But they've recalled him from Sunderland to what? Sit on the bench. He's a physical striker who can definitely disrupt centre-backs, but I don't think he's technically going to be involved in link-up play. I'm not convinced he's quite a Premier League ready striker yet. So you ideally want to loan him. So if you're loaning Ellis Sims, and to be honest with you, I don't think they should ever recall him from loan from Sunderland, but if you're loaning Ellis Sims, you have to keep Neal Maupay, because otherwise you've actually got no striker if Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets injured again, which he consistently does. So I would keep Neal Maupay, even though he's not setting the world alight. He was a 10-goal-a-season striker at Brighton. You wonder, can Sean Dyche turn him into a sort of Ashley Barnes type figure? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, the squad is just so thin. I couldn't believe it when I was doing this research. That leaves 15 players in keep. I mean, it's an awful lot of signings that would need to be made in the summer, isn't it? And Everton don't appear to have the finances to make those signings. If they go down, you'd think even less so. And then you potentially lose Pickford, lose Calvert-Lewin, you lose Onana. It's perilous. It's really, really perilous. I couldn't believe, how thin this squad was when I went through and did the analysis. Everton fans, I want to hear from you guys at home. Obviously, you're going to be absolutely furious. Most of this has been caused by poor recruitment over the years and things that have been going on at the top level of the club. Let me know who you would be keeping, who you'd be selling, loaning and letting go on a contract. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Go and watch some of my other stay or goes, the likes of Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle, you name them. I've probably done them. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.